So hello everyone, our group topic is on sexism. We will go into the prevalence of sexism and how it is different among cultures. Below is our group members. So now we will go into the table of contents. First, we will explain the background and the literature analysis. Second, we will go into the aspects of culture and how it is specified into the power distance. Third, we will explain the methodology of our experiment, the results, and also an explanation of our findings. Fourth, we will go into the implications within the workplace and the limitations that we have found. Lastly, we will explain the recommendations of the workplace based on our findings.
Okay, first we want you to watch this video and share your thoughts with us.
A very close call. Could have gone either way. It was right on the line.
Well, Ferguson's not too happy with it, I can tell you that much.
He's beating him like a rented mule.
And the ref's just tuning him out.
Boy, where do you train to take a beating like that?
He said, when's that porch gonna get painted? And that litter box! It's been 3 weeks! 3 weeks! And to think I could have married Don Hoffman! And would it hurt for you to say that you love me once in a while?
Now, can you type in the Zoom chat whether you think that this advertisement is sexist or not? Please write down your answers. Okay, thank you for your answers. Now, I'll give you some facts about this advertisement. Did you know that actually this tuned out Budweiser advertisement in 2004 ranked in the top 10 of USA Today ad meter poll of entertainment, and also on average it helped Budweiser to increase their return on their ad spend by 172%. Hence, sexism is still present in our societies, and in this case with a very typical stereotype of an angry wife shouting to her husband. All right, so now we're moving to the background and literature analysis about sexism. So what is sexism? According to Merriam-Webster, is the prejudice or discrimination based on sex and especially against women. Cambridge says that are the actions based on the belief that one sex is less able than the other, such as men over women. Therefore, on the first side is more focused on the actions done by men, while in the second one is more on the beliefs and the stereotypes. So what are the origins of this concept? It started in the 1960s through the 80s with the feminist second wave, and it was molded as a prejudice against women. It was formulated originally to increase the awareness of the male oppression. Now, this concept has an ambivalent side, one side that is hostile and the other one that is benevolent. So let's move. What is hostile? According to Glick et al., is the endorsement of traditional hostile stereotypes towards women, and it's the belittling of women who challenge the equality, power, and masculine roles. One example of this is the idea that men are more smart than women. But this concept also has a benevolent side, that according to Glick is the utilization of pleasantness towards women, understanding the interdependent roles of men and women. Also, it is the unsolicited help to women and maybe the assumption that men are more competent than them. One example of this is the idea that men are incomplete without women.
So hello guys, we will do a reenactment of our qualitative interviews. And first, we will start with a hostile sexism environment within Korean corporate culture. Chai, what is this? This is terrible. This is why women are just wrong. You should just get married and have kids. Why are you here? Just to give me this quality work?
This This is why I never want to work in Korea. I feel like it's just unequal and so stressful.
Hello guys, now we're going to do the reenactment of a benevolent situation in a Colombian workplace environment. Hello Victoria, welcome back to the office. Wow, let me help you. This is too heavy for you.
Thank you, Sean.
You're welcome. Victoria, wow, this seems complicated.
Exactly,
May-
so complicated.
May I help you with it?
Yes, please do. I'm so confused. I'm like, what? It's too complicated. I can't even
No.
understand.
Let me take care of this. You know, I'm here for you.
Sure, please. Thank you.
No, you're welcome. Just let me go through it, and I will be back to you. Okay?
Thank you.
No, welcome.
That's so sweet. Thank you.
Wow. Really, this seems complicated. I don't think she can do it.
All right. So from the skits that we've seen, we noticed that there are differences in cultures. So we will address 3 different regions so that you can further understand the impact of culture on sexism. Latin America, South Korea, and the US. So about Latin America, it is based on machismo, that according to Kulis et al., is the patriarchal cultural value system based on well-defined gender roles. It emphasizes in the power relationship extended in the superiority of men over women. In here, men have qualities and behaviors such as strength, aggressiveness, honor, and masculinity, which enhance the idea as men as the dominant role, while women are more into a submissive and passive one. Now, my colleague Kijun will explain you about the South Korea culture.
Hello. So within South Korea, Confucianism is deeply engraved into the culture. It was originated by following the teachings of Confucius, and it emphasizes the harmonious relationships through the division of gender roles. So this is one example of the teachings. When young, a woman should obey the father; when married, the husband; when old, the son. So from this, we can see that higher traditional conservative teachings have led to may actually have led to higher levels of sexism in the modern society of South Korea. Now I will hand it over to Chai-in to represent the United States.
According to the US, there are different cultural values towards men and women. The US upholds a culture of individualism as opposed to cultures in the Eastern Hemisphere that may emphasize collectivist cultures. The US highlights the importance of the self as well as individual independence. The US also has strong liberal attitudes towards gender roles that go beyond traditional mindsets. Hence, the role of men and women are less divided and are seen as not complementary towards one another.
High power distance is within Hofstede's cultural dimensions. It is the extent to which less powerful members of institutions and organizations within a country expect and accept that power is distributed unequally. In-depth explanation shows that in power distance there is unequal spread of power, varied perception of power, relationship among people, superior versus subordinate relationship, higher values show strong hierarchical community. High power distance views power as a reality of life, general acceptance of unequal power distributions, acceptance of autocracy and paternalism models. Authority is unquestioned. Low power distance questions the authority, higher participation in democratic and more consultative power, and equal relationship among leaders and followers. Specific PD score based on country shows that Colombia and South Korea has high power distance compared to the United States.
Next, we will go into the overall methodology of the experiment. So first, we have conducted a survey of 80 participants consisting of 17 countries. The gender was divided equally between male and female, and also the age was divided equally as well as above or below 40. The country levels was measured through the difference in power distance levels, and the survey was divided by first part A, which would represent hostile sexism, consisting of 14 questions, and part B, which would be benevolent sexism scales, which would also consist of 14 questions. Now, in this survey, we did not specifically define if part A or part B was hostile or benevolent sexism in order to capture the honesty of the participants. The countries we had concentrated on South Korea, Colombia, and US, which were each 16 participants, and the other countries was a total of 32 participants. Now, looking at the scale, we have to understand that each scale came in the form of questions. For hostile sexism, we have chosen the attitude towards women scale, and next we combine it with the modern sexism scale and the old-fashioned sexism scale. For benevolent sexism, we've looked at the ambivalent sexism inventory and fanned inventory factors. And then at the last part of the survey, we had asked the last vocal question, which would be, do these factors lead to workplace disengagement? Now let's move on to the overall design of the regression. So in order to capture the sexism levels related to the antecedents, we have defined the independent variable as age, gender, and power distance, and did a multilinear regression with hostile sexism and benevolent sexism, which would be the dependent variables. And we also did two separate linear regression experiments with the hostile sexism and benevolent sexism levels as the independent variable, and we measured its correlation with workplace disengagement, which would be the dependent variable. Now, let's move on to looking into the actual examples of this scale questions.
Now I'm going to talk about an example of scales. In our questionnaire, part A is a questions to identify hostile sexism. For example, the first question is, there are many jobs that are just for men and also others where men should be given preference over women in being hired or promoted. The second question is, on the average, women should be regarded as less capable of contributing to economic production than a man. Part B is a questions to identify benevolent sexism. For example, the first question is, women should be cherished, protected, and supported by men. The second question is, a woman tends to have more emotional intelligence and intuitive. Below is the answer sheet. And please put your answers to the Zoom chat. So if you put your answer in the Zoom chat, then we will move on to the next slide. Here we have all the statistical results that is significant. You see lots of numbers here. Let us simplify it and explain it. Here we give you a simple guide to understanding the results. First, as for hostile sexism, the higher the power distance, the higher the hostile sexism. And we set PD as a control variable, then the higher the age and male has higher hostile sexism. Then we found something that very interesting. Lower power distance and lower age actually lead to the higher levels of benevolent sexism. In South Korea, older age and male has higher hostile sexism. As for workplace disengagement, more hostile sexism has more workplace disengagement. And then, less benevolent sexism has more workplace disengagement. It's interesting, right? More benevolent sexism has less workplace disengagement. Let's focus on the map of our findings. Yellow shows the significance of hostile sexism. Green shows the significance of benevolent sexism. red, and pink shows the significance of workplace disengagement. Then we are going to talk about the implication within the workplace.
Now there are various implications within the corporate environment. In terms of hostile sexism, especially for individuals over the age of 40, and for countries that display higher levels of power distance, we see that there are various negative outcomes when it comes to sexism. The first outcome or implication would be the factor of inequality. More people or more women suffer from various outcomes such as job instability and differences in wages. The second implication would be a sense of exclusion. Workplace sexism could lead to reduced sense of belonging for women. In turn, this could lead to poor mental health, where feelings of loneliness, alienation, and ostracism can prevail. And last but not least, this could lead to reduced job satisfaction, where women feel less happy in their workplaces. Now, in turn, benevolent sexism implies that it could actually have a positive effect in the workplace environment. So higher levels of benevolent sexism could lead to more engagement at work. And this in turn again could lead to positive outcomes or implications. The first being a sense of protection, where women feel that they're being taken care of by men in the workplace. Second, a feeling of appreciation, where they are being recognized for their individual unique emotions. And most importantly, this could lead to increased engagement in the corporate environment.
So now we are moving on to the limitations. Our sample size is small, that is 80 in total, 75 cleaned, so the results may be distorted. As the surveys in Colombia were collected in a hospital and through physical means, thus participants might have less reluctant to show higher levels of sexism. Thirdly, US, though overall high in gender equality, mixture of so many cultures, thus could have led to their insignificance. And lastly, for the Korean data, the numbers were also limited, so could just have been collected from sexist individuals. Thank you.
Okay, now to conclude our presentation, we want to show you our recommendations on sexism. First, on the hostile side, we want to adopt strong codes of conduct and have a systematic review, an annual one probably, of the diversity and inclusion policies. Second one, we want to develop dedicated internal support and report systems for staff, such as appointing a dedicated person in the company to manage these cases. Furthermore, we want to have a very strict disciplinary measures to the violations against sexist conduct. Now, on the more benevolent side, we want to ease the workload after the maternity leave, but do not decrease the wages, thus increasing the workplace engagement of women in general. Thank you so much for your time, for your patience, and we look forward for your questions in the Zoom chat.